The sky was gray in Washington, D.C. that morning. The rain hadn't started, but there was a sticky silence in the air that looked like it was about to fall. A bus slowed down east on Pennsylvania Avenue, barely grazing the pavement. On its roof, written in large white letters, was the word "Hope." The bus was one of the most popular symbols of his campaign. That year in 2008, Barack Obama was preparing for one of the biggest elections in the country's history. But that morning, no media crew was on the bus. There were no cameras. The slogans were silent. Only the windows were fogged. And at that moment, the bus stopped for someone no one was paying attention to. A man was lying on the sidewalk across the street, a torn coat wrapped around him like a blanket. A small cardboard sign read in cursive, "I'm cold. I was thinking of not voting, but if someone sees me, I might change my mind." The bus slowed down. The driver looked into the mirror. Obama stood up. "Can we stop here?" he asked quietly. No one said anything. The bus stopped. The man's name was Raymond Keller. He was homeless, but he was not invisible. Life had slowly swallowed him up. He was a Vietnam veteran. Afterwards, he had nowhere to lean. Hospital corridors, night shelters, and subway entrances had become his home. That morning, when he looked up, he saw that he was standing in front of an election bus, and the door opened. A man got out. He knew that man. His face was on every television, but now he was at eye level. Obama approached silently. Raymond pulled on his coat. Reflexively, he tried to hide himself. He was used to it. People usually change directions. But this man was approaching. He put one knee on the ground. This was the first thing he said. "I don't have anything for you, but I have a lot of things for you." Raymond narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" he asked. He didn't really seem to know. Obama smiled. Barack Obama." The length of that speech is not recorded, but it is said to have lasted 7 minutes. The counselors on the bus were initially anxious, but then they began to watch silently. Raymond was one of the little talked-about realities of this country: post-war PTSD, loss of health insurance, unemployment, and then invisibility. Obama just listened. He never interrupted. Then he slowly pulled a small note from the inside pocket of his jacket, and he placed it in the breast pocket of Raymond's coat. He said only this sentence: "Open this note when the time comes." Then he got on the bus, the door closed, and the bus continued on its way. At that moment, something else happened that no one noticed. As the bus pulled away, a campaign official inadvertently dropped a document before returning to his seat. A thin, folded piece of paper, it remained on the floor of the bus. And as Raymond looked toward the bus door, it slid to the ground. The bus went to his rally in the city that day. But there was one person missing: Raymond. Years passed. Obama became president. Raymond was still on the streets, but he kept the note. He never took it out of his pocket. It wore out, it faded, but it remained readable. Raymond never told anyone about the note after that, but he would take it out of his pocket every morning, just look at the outside, and then put it back. In 2016, Raymond was found unconscious. One morning in the backyard of a public library. In the rain, the note was in his hand. The librarian, impressed by the document on him, called 911. He was taken to the hospital. He recovered. And with the help of a social worker, he was placed in a temporary housing facility. He was old now, but his mind was still focused on that morning. In 2023, Raymond quietly reached for a newspaper. There was an envelope next to him. Neither of them spoke for a moment. "When did you get this?" Anna asked. Raymond answered without turning his head. "That morning, when the bus stopped, when he listened to me, then he put this in my pocket, but he didn't want me to open it. He said, 'When the time comes.'" 3 things were inside the envelope: a folded piece of notepaper, a small diary-sized card, a handwritten one-word business card. Back of the bus. The note appeared to be in Obama's own handwriting, but the handwriting needed further examination to verify its authenticity. There was a date on the back of the card, November 4th, 2008, Election Day. Anna carefully opened the note. The ink was still fresh. The writing was neat and clear, but the lines were deeply personal. The note read, "The cameras that follow me have become accustomed to seeing many things, but people are still stuck between looking and seeing. If you're reading this, know that I really saw you, and what I saw was the future itself. There's something forgotten in the back of the bus, but this time so that no one misses it." Anna was stuck on that sentence. There's something forgotten in the back of the bus. Was it a metaphor or a real clue? Later that evening, she began digging through old campaign archives, the make, model, and length of service of the 2008 campaign buses. And one detail caught her eye. One of Obama's main fleet of buses hadn't been sold for a few weeks after the election. The others had been sold or returned, but one had been donated to a museum in D.C. and had been stored in a hangar for years. The next day, Anna went to the Transportation Inventory Depot, located in a side branch of the Smithsonian Museum. She told the authorities Raymond's story. They weren't interested at first, but when she showed them the note and the card, things changed. The archivist quietly led her to the bus. Its number was still on it. Unity 6. The bus was dusty but sturdy. The Hope lettering had faded, but the interior was preserved. Anna read the note again before boarding the bus. Something forgotten in the back of the bus. The back seats were still there, but the row of seats at the very back was the 3-cushion type. Anna leaned over. She put her hand in the gap between the seat and the floor. Nothing. But then, she tried to lift the bottom of the seat. And then, something clicked up. A thin wooden panel opened. Inside, a small gray file envelope. There was no date on the envelope, just a letter written in red ink. R. The document that came out of it was Raymond's military records, but there was something missing from these documents, a release date. So, Raymond had never technically left the military system, and this record was not in the official military files. Anna was startled when she saw this. "What does this mean?" she mumbled. She called Raymond right after that. It was obvious that this was the first time he had seen this document. She fell silent. She closed her eyes for a moment. Then she said only this. "So I'm still there." Anna couldn't make sense of it. Raymond continued. "The bus didn't just carry me, it recorded me." Anna decided to dig deeper. She combed through all the open sources on Raymond's past, but there was no digital record from before 1982. Hospital records, social security data, even birth records were missing. But one file contained a few words of explanation, subject formerly classified under Operation Morrow. The phrase was not in the official system, but Anna recognized it. MORROW was the secret name for post-Cold War civilian rehabilitation programs. It covered the situation in which soldiers who had suffered a psychological breakdown after war were isolated from society. It revealed the secret behind Raymond's sudden emergence on the streets in the 1980s. But how did Obama know this information? And why did he leave this note on a campaign bus with classified documents? That night, Anna visited Raymond again. "This note wasn't just given to you," she said. "It's a record. It was left for your voice to be heard." Raymond was silent for a moment. Then he held out a small notebook. There was nothing on the cover, but it was full. The first page began with an observation about Obama's 2008 campaign bus, but the last line echoed in Anna's mind. "It was the quietest bus I've ever seen, but that silence spoke the loudest truths inside me." When Anna opened the notebook, the first thing she noticed was not so much the order of the lines as the spaces. Raymond's handwriting was not neat, but he always left spaces around the words, as if each sentence wanted to wait a little longer. The first page began with Obama's campaign bus. "People sit in the front. They want to be visible, but I always sat in the back, not because no one would see, because I could see everything more clearly." As Anna read the lines, she realized that the notebook had actually become a kind of internal diary. It was as if Raymond had poured into it everything he had kept silent for years. As the pages progressed, when the bus stopped, he was telling not what he had experienced, but what he had not experienced. He looked at me like a human being. He had no speech text in his hand, no slogan. He looked into my eyes, and then it was as if he saw right through me. After reading the notebook, Anna decided to turn it into an article and publish it. But first, she looked for what was still missing. Did Obama really write that note in his own handwriting? With the help of a friend, she accessed a handwriting comparison system at Harvard University's archives. It had a record of many private notes, drafts of speeches, and letters Obama had written in the past. The result, 93.7% similarity. This technically meant that it was most likely written by the same person. Now Anna had in her hands not just a yellowed piece of paper that a homeless person had carried in their pocket for years. She had a record that could change history. The story quickly leaked. It was first published on a small blog. Then Reddit users discovered it. Then it was voiced on a podcast. And then The Washington Post reported on its homepage, Obama met with homeless man in 2008. Now he reveals note left on bus. A few days later, Obama's office released a statement to the press. The press secretary did not confirm the text, but he did not deny it either. The explanation was simply this. Some moments prefer not to be included in official documents, but those moments are the ones that remain in the public memory the most. These lines repeated Raymond's statement almost word for word. Raymond was silent in those days. The media wanted to find him many times, but he hid. He temporarily left the shelter. He did not talk to anyone except Anna. One day he quietly sent Anna a short letter. The envelope only said, "I did not want to be seen, but if my invisibility became a voice, that's enough." A month later, a small ceremony was held in front of the museum where the bus was donated. The bus, called Unity 6, was restored and put on display, but the museum administration set aside the last seat of the bus as a special section. Its name, back of the bus, visitors were forbidden to enter. But inside was placed a note from Raymond in a small glass box. There was no caption. There was just one sign. A man was seen here. Years later, Anna wrote a book about Raymond's life. The title was still simple, Note. The foreword of the book began with this sentence: "This is not a story of leadership. This is a story of caution, because sometimes history is written only by the eyes that choose to see." Raymond Keller died quietly in 2026. There was no state funeral. But that day, one of his old campaign buses made a short tour of the city center in his honor. The only thing written on it was HOPE, just like the first day. As the screen fades to black, a voice comes in. A bus stopped. A man approached. Not a word was said. But that day, history began to change.